What's going on, bitches? The men's VNL finals get going tomorrow. No, not even tomorrow. Basically soon. Just a few hours over in Nanjing, China. So I'm going to break down the 4 quarterfinals that we're going to see over the course of the next few days. Now, heading over to the bracket, this is what it looks like. On the top left, you have number 1 and undefeated Japan taking on the basement dwellers. Lucky to be here, lucky to be alive. Frauds, that is China. On the same side of the bracket, you have a very interesting and very exciting matchup between Italy and the United States. On the other side of the bracket, on the matches that we're actually going to see tomorrow morning, early this morning in just a few hours, we've got Poland taking on Ukraine. That is a very interesting Eastern European matchup. And then Slovenia taking on Turkey in another European matchup. And honestly, I kind of like this. It's a little bit new. It's a little different than what we've seen, right? There's no Brazil this year. There's no France this year. And I think that just makes things a little bit more interesting, a little bit more open. Ukraine is in the finals for the first time. Turkey is in the finals for the first time. And other than the matchup between Japan and the frauds that are China, I like all 3 of these matchups. So let's break them down, starting with first and foremost Slovenia against Turkey. Now, Slovenia against Turkey is, a little bit lopsided when you look at the numbers of it all. Slovenia is one of 8 teams who have made it to the semifinals of the VNL. And they've done so 3 times in their history. And of course, in the 5 years they have been in the VNL, they have made the finals 4 times. That's actually a really good record. However, what is not a good record is that they are the only team who have made the semifinals and who have never won the medal. Whereas Turkey, on the other side, this is their first time here, right? This is the first time here. And if you see here their head-to-head, it is very much in favor of Slovenia. Of course, these are some friendlies here, but still, like that's the one other win for Turkey in a friendly back in 2025. Once again, that's a friendly for the last win by Turkey. You're going to have to go all the way back to 2018 in the European Golden League, where Turkey beat Slovenia twice. That is the last time Turkey beat Slovenia in a meaningful match. And I will have to say, it might be a little difficult. I do think this is a really, really good litmus test for this Turkish team to kind of understand where they actually rank in the world. I know there's some people who are surprised they made it here, especially without Efe Mandaracha playing throughout this tournament. But I think of all the top 4 teams in the tournament, Turkey has the best shot against Slovenia. No doubt about it. Turkey, a very talented team. And I was a little bit so surprised to see that they actually don't have the best offense. I thought, with guys like Adis Lugumja and stuff like that, they would have a better offense, but they were the 12th ranked offense in the VNL this year, whereas Slovenia was 4th. And, where Turkey really thrived is they had a really good serve and block game. They were one of the better serving teams in the VNL. They were top 5 in aces per set, and they also led the VNL in stuff blocks per set. Well, on the Slovenia side, they have a very high-powered offense. This is a very, very good offensive team, and they have so much talent when you're looking at Nik Nojanovic, Rock Mosic, Tontek Stern. They have so many different looks, and they have so much depth. As I said, they had the 4th best offense, the 4th best side out rate in the VNL this year. So I think if Turkey is going to have a chance, they need to be really, really dialed in on their serve and block game, right? Like down the middle, Bubul needs to be really strong, and their offense needs to be really cooking. It needs to be cooking better than the 35% efficiency it was throughout the VNL. But that being said, I do think Slovenia, they have the experience, they have the depth, they have the offense, and they know how to run a high ball offense, right? Slovenia isn't a very good passing team. They're not a very good serve-receive team. So they're used to kind of just going high balls to the outside, and I think that's going to really benefit them in this case. I'm looking at this one to be Slovenia 3-1, maybe 3-2. No, I'm going to go 3-2. I think Turkey can put some pressure on, but ultimately it will be Slovenia. Next up, we have Japan against the frauds that are China. And there's not much to say here. This isn't like the women's Chinese team who are very good and just barely missed the playoffs and, managed to pull off an upset. I really don't see that happening in this one. This Chinese team is bad. And I mean, the only way they managed to get a win was because they beat Cuba in the first week when Cuba had a completely B team roster. But other than that, they were pretty much useless throughout the rest of this VNL. And Japan was the only undefeated team. And I would say that the only way for China to really make this one interesting is to make it sloppy and gross. However, Japan has done really well, right? They've won so many 5-setters throughout the course of this VNL. They haven't played that normal, clean Japan style that we're used to seeing. And I mean, I can't even tell you the last time. Okay, I guess in the Asian Championships, the Asian Cup, China beat Japan back in 2022. I'd be really, the same thing with the Asian Games. I'd be really interested to see what kind of roster Japan had for those ones, because all these VNL matchups is just China. Oh, I guess we'd have to go back to 2018, the last time China beat Japan. But I don't think there's a chance in hell. If China is going to win a set, I think it's just going to be because Heinen game plans the shit out of Japan. Maybe Japan fumbles a little bit. So max, I'm going 3-1 Japan, but it's probably going to be 3-0. Next up, we have Italy against the United States. And to be honest, I think this is a terrible matchup for the United States. Italy beat the U.S. in week 1 back in Ottawa. It was a really good 5-set match. However, since then, Italy has brought back Simone Giannelli. Most importantly, they also brought back Daniele Lavia. I don't think that's going to matter as much. You know, Lavia has kind of been a little bit up and down. But regardless, I think that, you know, the U.S. has played really, really well throughout the majority of this VNL. And then in their last 2 matches of the VNL against Bulgaria and Poland, they really got exposed by 2 physical teams. Now, the U.S. has really dominated this VNL in so many different areas. They've dominated from the baseline. They've dominated at the net. They've had one of the best side-out teams over the course of this VNL. And they've also been very, very patient, right? They've put a lot of pressure on teams, haven't made too many errors. They've made some of the fewest errors in this entire VNL, and they've let other teams make the errors for them and give them the points for them. However, the bad news against Italy is that not really going to work. Italy is a very skilled team, so it's going to be hard for them to bully them from the baseline. And Italy, while they made a few more errors than the United States, I really don't see them making that many errors in this one. However, good news for the USA is the fact that Italy is not that physical team that we saw from Bulgaria or from Poland. So if the U.S. is going to be successful in this one, they have to be really good from the baseline, try to pull Giannelli off the net as much as possible, and they need to be really, really good at the net. They need to be super dominant in blocking, and their offense needs to stay really, really efficient. I'm really interested to see how Jake Haynes is going to be in this one. We've seen in the past where he's kind of tapered off in those longer matches. He kind of struggled against both Bulgaria and Poland. Can he stay up there and stay as efficient throughout the entire match? And for Italy, they just need to weather that storm that is going to be the U.S. from the baseline, and they need to be very, very smart with their attacking, which I think they're going to be able to do. I'm calling Italy 3-2 in this matchup. And then finally, we have, I think is going to be a very exciting matchup between Poland and Ukraine. Now, Poland has looked very, very good. They've had the best offense in the VNL. They have looked supremely dominant. And Ukraine is coming into the finals for their first time this year. However, when you look at the head-to-head between these two teams, they did go 3-2 earlier on this year in this VNL in week 2. So I think this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup. Now, a lot of these matchups have been, kind of early season matchups before the VNL or at the Wagner Memorial, but still there's a lot of 3-2s here. And I think that's going to be a couple reasons. So there's a few reasons why I'm excited for this matchup. First and foremost, these two teams know each other very well, not only from playing each other in the national teams, but the majority of this Ukrainian squad plays in the Plus Liga for Barkom Lviv, the Ukrainian team who plays in Poland. So there is a lot of familiarity there. The only guy who really doesn't is Ole Plotnitsky, and Plotnitsky is an absolute stud who plays in Italy, who knows how to play up against bigger blocks, and in my opinion, is one of the best outside hitters in the world. And second of all, Ukraine is a very physical team who can stand up against the physicality that is Poland. These two teams play very similar styles of game. And sure, you can go head to head and match these two teams up, and you're going to have some guys who are better. Of course, like Ukraine doesn't have a guy to match Wilfredo Leon, but Poland isn't head and shoulders better than Ukraine in this one. And Ukraine has proven that they can go out and ball with absolutely anyone. And I think they are going to make this one very, very, very interesting. Now, it seems like this is kind of a theme. You have one team who is very good offensively in Poland. Poland has had the best offense. They have been the most efficient offense so far in this VNL. But Ukraine hasn't been too bad either. But Ukraine has been one of the top teams in the block. They've been one of the best teams from the baseline. So, especially with guys like Yuri Semeniuk, down the middle, if Ukraine can pull Poland off the net, if they can put them into bad situations, if they can make sure Poland can't run that middle, that's going to really release some of that pressure off of Ukrainians' middle blockers, and might be able to steal a win here. I'm still going Poland 3-2 in this matchup, but I do think that there is a chance for Ukraine to possibly steal a win. I think it honestly could be close. Looking at the schedule for the next couple of days at 3 a.m. my time, Eastern time, Slovenia against Turkey. I won't be streaming that one. Japan and China. Honestly, it'll be a game time decision. I know this is like the night before, but still game time decision if I'm going to do that one. I will probably wake up for Italy and USA on Thursday morning. That one should be interesting. Poland, Ukraine should also be very interesting. I do have a job interview at 11:30 in the morning that morning, so it might be a little bit tight. Well, if it goes 5, we'll have to see. But regardless, I think this should be pretty interesting. And just to go over my picks once again, I'm picking Japan, I'm picking Italy, I'm picking Poland, and I'm picking Slovenia. I'm picking all of the top 4 seeds. Boring, I know, but that's the way she goes sometimes. All right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy it, and I will get you guys an update on Thursday afternoon. Peace.